Hello, everyone. This is Atishay Jain, and welcome to another episode of the Mental Health Corner. Today, I have a very special guest here with me today, Gerry Porcaro. I've known him for, oh my God, what, like 6, 7, 8 years now. He used to be my piano teacher back when I was younger, and just an absolutely inspirational person. One of the best musicians I know, as a harpist, pianist, and overall great person. And I'm really excited today because this is a topic that's really close to my heart. The importance of music when it comes to mental health. So to those viewers out there, actually during the COVID pandemic, I played a little bit of music actually for senior centers. And I noticed the value that music had when it came to mental health. And when I was looking for guests for the next podcast episode, I happened to reach out to Gerry, and I think I'm really excited for today's conversation. And Gerry, thank you so much for being here today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Atishay, well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that very sweet, very kind introduction. So I am Gerry Porcaro, my Italian name being Gennaro, coming from southern Italy. I I received my undergraduate degree from Westminster Choir College in Princeton, New Jersey. I majored in music theory and composition, and my primary focus was piano. And then there I discovered the harp and found my calling. The light shone on me, and that was it for me. So finished my master's at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Very nice. Thank you so much for that very great introduction. So I just a very quick question. So what do you like better, harp or piano? It's a tough question.
That is a very tough question. Piano was my first love. And do you ever really get over your first love?
True, that's
Uh,
true.
yeah, no, I still teach plenty of lessons. I still find myself playing pieces I played in undergraduate and before, pieces that I had difficulty with now that I can overcome and play them just fine.
Yeah,
But the harp is keeps me busy. It keeps me going. It is one of my most incredible finds, and I can't believe I wake up every day. I look at my harps, two harps, three harps actually,
wow.
and it's yeah, they multiply. Don't put water on them. They multiply like gremlins. But it still shocks me that I make a living in music after years of people telling me, no, don't do music, go into tech, become a doctor, become a lawyer. You have to make money, you have to make a living, you have to be comfortable. And that is probably the biggest lie I've ever been told in my life. So that I look at these harps every day and go, I play this. This is what I do 24 hours a day. It's what I breathe and exhale. And it still shocks me that I'm disproving that lie.
Right. And I think, that's one of, the biggest inspirations, despite obstacles or hindrances or, people in your life telling you that, you can't make it, you get to like defy the odds and really, stick to your passion. So that's kind of one thing I really admire about you, especially. So kind of delving into the mental health side of music. So being a pianist and a harpist, how do you think that, what is the role of music when it comes to mental health? So there's been several studies that have been done from, top research institutions saying that those who even engage in some level of music, whether that's just listening music, playing one, two, three instruments or singing, they're shown to, have reduced levels of anxiety, depression, etc. So what is your opinion on this? And, it can be from a more like qualitative perspective as well.
Mm. Sure. Yeah, that's such a great question. I find it music is so important for mental health. Whether you're listening to it on a device or whether you are listening to it live in person, it's incredible the vibrations you feel and that the instant health you feel from listening to music with the harp, with the piano being my two strongest what's the word I'm looking for, what I'm used to, Oh man, see, you stop going to college and you start forgetting.
No
but
worries.
being with my experience with the two instruments, there we go, experience. The harp just seems to be, and probably another reason I gravitate towards it. Uh, One of the most healing instruments I've come across. You're resting the harp on your right shoulder, where it's against your body, and as you play it, the vibrations of the string and the sound of the music is just so healing. And then besides your own personal being, you get to emit that sound to someone who might be ill, who might be tired, who might be depressed, who might be stressed, and they hear this music, and like a flower without water, like a plant without sunshine, you see them reemerge and come back and start to be aware again. And it's absolutely fabulous. One of the things I'm so lucky to have close by is a harp store where I work on weekends, where I teach harp. And there are so many clients who come and purchase small portable harps that they can put over their shoulder and stand and play. And I always ask, well, do you use them for practicing? What do you use your harp for? For healing, for yoga, for meditation. Just recently, someone came in actually 2 weeks ago, a gentleman by the name of Jeremiah, and he says, "Yeah, I have a meditation and yoga studio, and this harp is going to be the focal point. I'm going to be able to play and heal my patients." And I find that to be very true, very true.
Wow. That's really incredible. And, I've come across some individuals that, as you mentioned, they undergo or, facilitate this thing called music therapy, which to me, I was really unfamiliar with that concept before doing some research into it. But I found that, patients who undergo that sort of therapy when it comes to dealing with certain CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapies. That's one of the kind of less popular, but I think starting to like emerge as a more popular kind of holistic way of healing when it comes to several mental health disorders like anxiety, depression, etc. Because I feel like individuals are straying away from medicine and gravitating towards these holistic forms of art and meditation and yoga, as you mentioned. So what a beautiful anecdote. So thank you so much for that. And one thing that really caught my attention was that metaphor you used of the flower without sun. And, when you pour water, it really just emerges into this beautiful life form. So do you have any like kind of anecdotes of you kind of playing for someone who might not have been feeling that well, but then, they kind of heard your music and, felt like a different type of way after your experience with them?
I have come across people who come to the store, especially, and they walk in and, oh my goodness, I've never seen a harp store before, and oh, I was walking in town, and my mother had just passed away. There was this one woman specifically, um, and and she says, I miss her, and she was such a music aficionado, and I miss that. I'm not a musician myself. I went into tech, and it's something I don't have in my life anymore. I said, oh my goodness. I said, well, let's get you to play a harp. And so I sat her down and put the harp on her and showed her how to pluck a few strings. And as she asked me, do you think you can play something for me? I said, of course. So I sat down, and I didn't play anything challenging or difficult or extravagant. I played some arpeggios, do mi sol, do mi sol, do mi sol, and just up and down the harp, and rolled a few chords and did a couple of glissandos. That's running your fingers along the string and hearing that kind of that swoosh of sound. And I wasn't paying too much attention to her. I put the harp down and look over, and she's just tears running down her face. And thinking about it, I'm getting choked up again. I said, are you okay? And she goes, it was so beautiful. It's just what I needed.
Wow.
Just to be in the presence of these harps and to hear you play so beautifully, it just brings me back. And sorry, now I'm thinking about it again. I'm getting all emotional, but it was very strong to see that and to hear that. And it really made me start to think, this, I did take the path of a doctor. I did take the path
Yeah,
of help. So it reminds me every day how lucky I am to have chosen this path to
definitely.
not just bring joy, but to heal again. Yeah, it's great. It's
That's
great.
really incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and not just with people with I guess what's the word I'm looking for? I apologize since I didn't go into the medical field. I don't know the exact terminology, but
No worries.
into mental health that's treatable, such as ADD and depression. You can take a medication. There are ways to. But I during my time at Westminster, I was principal harpist with the Westminster Conservatory Community Orchestra, Westminster Community Orchestra. And the conductor came up to me and said, Gerry, look, there's a family who has a daughter who plays the harp, and they want to know if she could play with the orchestra. And I said, well, of course. I said, oh, but you're asking me because she isn't that good? And the conductor says, well, I don't know how good she is. I've heard her play and she plays well. The thing that I wonder is that she has a severe form of autism,
I see.
and she's low functioning, but she can play the harp. I thought, okay, well, you know what, that's great. I said that she plays the harp. So yes, let's absolutely get her on board. And I met her, and she has a series of questions that she asks. Hello, how are you? My name is. Who are you? What is your name? And what is your job?
I see.
And that was pretty much in the beginning the extent of it. And I thought to myself, okay, well, let's see how she plays. And we sat down next to each other, and the orchestra starts, and she was a whole different person.
Wow.
She put the harp on her shoulder, she put her hands on the strings, she was ready, the music started, and she was transported. And she played along with me incredibly. She didn't miss a beat. She was perfect. And her parents would come to rehearsals and, of course, all of the concerts. So after that first rehearsal, I turned to them and got to know them and asked them about her. And she, um, was told, the mother was told that her daughter would never be functioning. She would be non-functional, that she would need constant looking after, that there was going to be no progress, that she will be stuck in this specific state for the rest of her life. So her mother, doing the research that she did, discovered music,
Right.
and more so discovered the harp and its very known healing powers, and started Catherine on the harp, and immediately noticed a change in her and how she responded to that. She saw the ability to now play the instrument and to focus, and she also began giving her speech therapy lessons, and that she could start to talk and ask questions and understand and show different emotions, and that Catherine was a living functional human being, and all she needed was just a little bit of music to bring her back to life.
Wow, what a beautiful story. And I think that goes to show the universality of music, you know. It doesn't require a language. And as you said, right, your brief interaction with her, she asked a few questions, but then as soon as she sat down next to you, you were kind of mesmerized, you know, by her talent, by her ability to like play the harp. So I think the extent of what healing powers music really has is, you know, really well shown through that story. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I know personally for me, back when I was younger, you know, when school used to be tough or, you know, I wasn't feeling that great, I'd sit down on my piano, you know, go through furlies that, you know, you've taught me so many times. And, you know, I've still got most of the parts memorized. So I just sit down and, you know, run through that a couple of times and just a moment, you know, it's just like a stress reliever. And it just brings you to like this other dimension where you can't really you can kind of dissociate yourself from the normal world. So you know, again, once again, thank you for sharing that. And I was
Yeah.
wondering if you had any experiences like you know yourself when it came to like really understanding the importance of music as a healing power, kind of like when you've may you know have faced a time during undergraduate years or otherwise, you know, when times may have been low and you turn to harp or piano. as a kind of a source of healing. So
For sure. So when I was graduating high school, trying to figure myself out, where was I going? What was I doing? I really didn't put too much focus on college. So I decided to go to community college, Mercer County Community College, and allow myself to discover myself more, to figure out who I was. And it was also during a time where my mom had stage 3 breast cancer. She was very scared, she was very worried, and she didn't think she was going to make it. She didn't want to go and get any help, get any therapy. She just wanted to let it overcome her. But of course, we wouldn't let that happen, and she did what she needed to do to help herself to heal.
right,
And during my time at Mercer County Community College, I'm taking art classes, I'm taking plant science classes, and math and history, and all of these other classes. But as much as I love plants, hence you can hear it from my flower metaphor, I do use plants in my analogies and metaphors quite often.
right,
That wasn't my calling, wasn't my passion, and it wasn't until I heard the choir singing in a different building that I thought, oh wow, there's a music department here. Let me jump into that, and rediscovered my love for music. So it strengthened my piano skills again, and I would go home, and I was still living with my parents at the time, and I would play the piano there, and I could start to play the old Italian folk music that my parents grew up with, and in a way I also grew up with. And there were times where my mom didn't want to get out of bed. She was too tired from chemotherapy. She was too embarrassed for not having any hair. She wanted to stay in her room in the dark alone and be depressed and not be bothered. And I can understand, the sadness of such an awful, awful, awful uh, thing in your life. But I would play the piano and I could hear the door open. I could hear her walking out, and she would look at me and say, I know that song. And we would laugh. And, so I would continue to play. And I think one of the most, popular Italian songs that you hear everywhere is the song Funiculi Funicula. And you hear it, yamma, yamma, goppa, yamma, yam, da, 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 da. It's one of those that you hear on every Italian commercial. Oh, come and get my pizza, drive the Ferrari, and you hear that song playing in the background. So that was one that we could sing, and it's very upbeat and very happy. And for those moments, she would forget that she was sick, and she was back with me singing at the piano, and she was happy again. And then my dad would join in, and then if there was an aunt in the kitchen who was making coffee or hanging out, and she would jump in, and it became a party. It became a house again, a family again. And she would forget her worries for that time, and it definitely helped all of us get through a very dark 18 months.
of course. Oh, well, thank you so much, for going so far back and telling us the value of music, in terms of like bringing together your family. And I remember a couple of years ago, when I was younger, I used to go to my great grandmother's house down in Florida. And I used to like lay by her, and just she would sing me like these like nursery rhymes in Hindi, that I grew up hearing from my grandmother and from my mother. Um, and as I grew older, I would start singing along with her, though my singing ability is not that great, but
I don't believe it.
but yeah, and so I would sing along with her. And only a certain point came where I started understanding the meaning of those words, and the value that what she was saying to me really had. So the song is Chanda Hetu, which means you are the moon or something like that. So it's like an analogy that elder members in your family sing to younger ones to express their affection, love, compassion. And I've here growing up, but like as I mentioned, I only came to know what the value of that song had in my life. And luckily my great grandmother is still here with us today. So every time I go and visit her, reminisce about that song and how many times she sang it to me while I was laying next to her, put me to sleep. And I've written a couple English papers about that in school, and it's been a yeah. So I definitely relate to that experience, and I'm sure many individuals out there viewing this podcast or otherwise can relate to the fact that they have universal experiences around music, whether that's singing together on long road trips, just making someone happy at the end of the day. So,
Yeah, road trips, especially when I lived in North Carolina, driving up and down 95 to get back to New Jersey to visit friends and family and such. I
mhm.
remember one time, I'm a big Cher fan, love, love, love Cher, and she had come out with an album dedicated to ABBA. So she did
uh,
some of the full
yeah,
CD of all the ABBA songs, and ABBA, my goodness,
yeah,
such fun music. And I remember this car pulling up next to me. I had the windows down. I'm on the highway. There are cows on both sides, beautiful fields, and I have Cher singing, some ABBA music. And this car pulls up to me, and the two girls in the car dancing, and they're grooving, and they're shaking, and they're singing along, and I'm singing along, and for that 3, 4, 5 minutes, you just kind of forget you're on the road for 8 hours
yeah,
driving nonstop and in fields and fields and fields. Yeah, it transports you. And it's interesting how you say that, as you learn the words, the lyrics to the song your great grandmother sang to you, how important the words really are too. That really adds to the healing. I remember back when I worked at my family's pizzeria, gosh, in high school, maybe 2003, 2004, and a good friend of mine brought me a New York Times article, and it was a study that had been done about ice, and they would take specific lyrics from different songs. I love you, you are the wind beneath my wings, those types of lyrics, and would put them against the I guess not glass, it would shatter. I don't know exactly where they put it, but with the ice. And the crystals that formed in the ice were gorgeous and geometrical and perfection and beautiful. And then they would take something like Ramstein, "Du hast mich," "You hate me," or some very violent lyric, and put that along with the water. And when that froze, the harsh crystals, the shattered look to them, the intricate but ugly formation of the ice was astounding. I remember that still sticks with me today. How you just say something to somebody, how it
right.
can have an effect, whether you see it or not, whether they see it or not, can have an effect.
Right. And I've seen the classic like science fair experiments like in high school, middle school, like growing plants with like certain types of music. So I've
Mm.
grown up hearing about those, and to an extent I definitely think they have certain type of music. I've read studies about, saying how you should listen to classical music or smooth jazz when studying. And it yields like good outcomes. My dad tells me all the time when he was younger, he only used to study with music on. um, you know. So I guess as we're starting to wrap up here, one other thing I wanted to touch on was the idea of mental health awareness. So one of the main premise I have with this podcast is the fact that mental health can be a stigma to talk about for many folks. And in your perspective, what is the best way for teenagers, adults, younger students, or even senior citizens to spread awareness in their community, whether that's through music or otherwise?
One thing is to let a person be who they are. There is nothing in this world that is ugly unless it is unkind to someone or something else. And allowing a person to be the person they want to be, to allow them to discover who they are, whether it's something you disagree with or not. Maybe someone is transgendered or gay or in the LGBTQIA community. Maybe somebody wants to move to a dangerous neighborhood, but it's a neighborhood they feel passionate about. Or I say dangerous with quotations because what's dangerous, what they feel might be dangerous, probably is not. To allow a person to live their life to the fullest and do it with love and kindness is the most important thing I feel you can do for anyone. It's I always say anything that brings you one step closer to world peace is a good thing. And when it comes to mental health, you can't just tell someone, well, just perk up, just be happy. No, you have to allow that person to heal. And instead of telling them, well, just be happy, well, maybe help them find a way to heal. Put on their favorite music, see how they react. Do it with love, do it with kindness, and you can never be in the wrong.
Right. Thank you so much. And I think the most important thing that, we can do for each other, as you said, is just to really take care of each other and reach out. I've said this in many of my podcasts, but I'm going to say it again. But the most important thing that, we can do as people is, like I said, to reach out, but also to take one step back, look around you and say, like, I think this person is feeling low today. How can I go out of my way to help them? And as you said, it can be as small as turning on their favorite music or playing them a song on the piano, that will, get you out of bed. And that's just really the beauty of music, musicianship, playing instruments, singing, listening to music. And like I said, that's the one kind of factor that can bring together many people, regardless of their gender, ethnicity, class, sexual orientation, etc. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I
so
deal with that. I have my best friend Samantha, who fortunately now we live across the street from each other. My best friend from high school, back in New Jersey.
wow,
And there are days she simply cannot get out of bed. But we get together and we watch a favorite TV show and we sing the opening theme song together, and she perks right back up. And I make sure to check on her every day. Hey, how are you doing? Do you need anything? How are you feeling? How are your cats? Do you need help cleaning the litter boxes? I'll be over this weekend. We're going to spend the whole day together.
right.
And just to show her that, hey, I'm here and I care.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
And I think that's all it takes, really,
Yeah.
for most people especially. And then, even if more than that, it's the first step that counts, reaching out. And as you said, like, just sitting down together and watching your favorite TV show, listening to music together.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So any kind of last words of wisdom? I know you've provided so much, really, to this podcast so far, and I really thank you. I really appreciate, all you've done for individuals of the community, whether that's in Princeton or San Francisco or even beyond, remotely. You've really left a mark of inspiration for many, and I thank you for that. So
Thank you, Atishay. Thank you for your kind words. That's very sweet of you. I guess what I can leave with people is whatever you do, and I just said it before, make sure it brings you one step closer to world peace. I know I sound like Miss Congeniality right now, but for real, it's the truth. The action you make today, how can that bring you closer to just a world of happiness? You can't go wrong with love and happiness.
for sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, once again, Gerry, thank you so much for being here today on this podcast. And we really appreciate your time. And hopefully, I'll see you back in New Jersey when you're here very
I
soon.
will for sure see you back in New Jersey. Atishay, thank you for reaching out. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And congratulations on your podcast. It's so great.
Thank you so much.